I'm nobody special, just another cog in the corporate machine, taking away my life in a cubicle farm where the only view is another cubicle. Every day was a carbon copy of the last. The same fluorescent hum, the same lukewarm coffee, the same mind numbing spreadsheets. And then there was Greg, my boss who had a new terrible joke every morning, but somehow they always felt like the old ones. Today was Monday, 1st December, another glorious, soul-crushing Monday. Around 11:30 a.m., my stomach, the only part of me still capable of genuine excitement, growled its protest. I needed an escape, and that's when I saw it. A new place, just a block down, tucked between a dry cleaner and a defunct video store, Temporal Eatery. The sign read, in quaint, cursive neon, a little too on the nose, I thought, for a place selling pad thai. But hey, it was new, it was different, it was my only hope of breaking the monotony. I walked in. The aroma of spices hit me, a welcome assault on my senses. I ordered the pad see ew, paid cash and devoured it in a blissful 10 minutes. Stepping back onto the sidewalk, I felt a flicker of something almost like hope. Maybe today wouldn't be so bad after all. I glanced at my watch. 12:58 p.m., 2 minutes until the afternoon grind. I pushed open the office doors, nodding vaguely to a colleague. As I reached my desk, the clock on my computer screen blinked 1 p.m., and that's when it happened. A dizzying lurch, like falling backward in a dream. Then, the shrill, insistent blare of my alarm clock. My eyes snapped open. The bad coffee smell, the gray light. My phone displayed Monday, 1st December, 8 a.m. My alarm was going off. Again, I sat up, heart pounding. Was I still dreaming? A lucid dream of my worst nightmare. Reliving Monday, I tried to shake it off, but Greg's voice, delivering the exact same joke about the water cooler, echoed from the hallway. My inbox, the exact same email from him about the spreadsheet. No, this wasn't a dream. This was real. I was stuck, trapped, in a time loop. The first few loops were, I admit, exhilarating. If every day reset, what did consequences matter? I told Greg exactly what I thought of his jokes. I emptied my bank account, spent it all on ridiculous gadgets, knowing it would all reappear tomorrow. I even tried robbing a bank once. Walked in, demanded money, got arrested, woke up at 8 a.m., safe in my bed. What else do you want? A ridiculous grin on my face. The money, of course, was gone. The loop reset everything outside of me, but the thrill faded. And that, indeed, was fast. The knowledge that nothing mattered, that no choice held weight, became its own kind of prison. I tried everything, different lunches, different routes to work. Nothing changed. The day always ended when the office clock hit 1 p.m. and I always woke up at 8 a.m. precisely when my alarm blared. My existence had been compressed into a monotonous 288-minute cycle. I started timing it. Each day, 7 hours, 48 minutes. The same 7 hours, 48 minutes, over and over. I became desperate. I tried to burn the office down. I woke up at 8 a.m. smelling only bad coffee, the faint scent of smoke, an imagined memory. After what must have been weeks or maybe months, time loses all meaning when it is so perfectly replicated. I started to see the pattern. It wasn't the start of the day that triggered the loop. It was something at the end. The moment I returned from lunch, The moment I walked through the office doors, the moment the clock struck 1 p.m., it was always connected to my lunchtime foray to the Thai place, the temporal eatery. Had I eaten something there? Touched something? My mind raced. If I just didn't go to lunch, could I break the cycle? Could I escape past 1 p.m.? On what I estimated was loop 40, my plan was set. I wouldn't leave the office. No pet see you, no delicious escape. I would sit at my desk, starve if I had to, and wait for the clock to tick past that cursed 1 p.m. mark. The morning dragged. Every second was an eternity. My stomach growled like a beast, but I didn't move. My colleague gave me strange looks. Not having lunch today, Mark? Greg chirped. His terrible joke now, a grating, nails-on chalkboard sound. No, Greg, not today. 11:30 a.m., 11:45, 11:58. I watched the second hand on my computer screen, a tiny digital warrior battling time itself. My heart hammered against my ribs. Could it be this simple? Could I really beat it? The clock clicked. 12 p.m. Nothing happened, no reset, no lurch. I was free. A raw, desperate laugh burst from my lips. I threw my hands in the air, a madman celebrating his escape from an invisible prison. I ran to the office exit, ready to burst into a world where Tuesday, 2nd December actually existed. But as my hand touched the cold steel of the door handle, the ground began to shake. Not a gentle tremor, but a deep, resonant rumble that vibrated through my bones. The fluorescent lights flickered violently, then died, plunging the office into a sudden, ominous twilight. A deep, metallic whine filled the building, a sound like 1,000 gears grinding, the death rattle of something unimaginably vast. I stumbled backward, turning to the window. Outside, the street was gone. The quaint little restaurant, temporal eatery, was no more. In its place, a monstrous, churning engine of rusted iron and brass towered over everything. It was colossal, its scale impossible, its gears turning slowly, inexorably. Bolts of green energy sparked across its metallic surface. The entire sky had darkened to a bruised purple, and a massive, impossibly long arm of machinery. It was sweeping towards my office building, pulling it apart piece by piece, like some cosmic child dismantling a toy. The truth hit me with the force of a physical blow. The Thai place wasn't the cause of the loop, it was the lure. The sign for the temporal eatery was glowing eerily green on the front of the machine, like the branding on a cattle ranch. I wasn't trapped in a time loop. I was trapped inside a machine. A time machine. A machine that was grinding down my reality, reliving the same morning over and over again, not for my benefit, but because I was its food. My existence was being processed, consumed. I was the lunch being rewound. I screamed, a raw animal sound, as the wall of my office exploded inward, replaced by a massive, rusty piston that blotted out the sky. The clock on my computer flickered one last time, freezing on 12:59:58. I didn't just feel the pain of impending oblivion. I felt the profound, soul-crushing dread of knowing that when I opened my eyes again, it would be Monday, 1st December 2025, 8 a.m., and I'd still be hungry. Hungry for a life I could never reach. We all have that one perfect memory, don't we? That single moment, frozen in time, that encapsulates everything good and beautiful. For me, it was 3 years ago, a sweltering summer wedding, not ours, but a friend's. Emily, my girlfriend at the time, was radiant. We were standing by a shimmering lake, the golden hour light bathing everything in a soft, ethereal glow. She had just whispered something funny, her head thrown back in pure, unadulterated laughter. Her hair, caught by the breeze, framed a smile that could melt glaciers. In that instant, I raised my phone, snapped a quick photo, not staged, not posed, just pure, unadulterated joy. That photo, it became my phone background, my lock screen, my constant reminder of a time when everything felt effortless and right. Life, as it often does, moved on. 6 months ago, Emily broke up with me. It was messy, painful, the kind of breakup that leaves a scar. But even then, even through the heartache, I couldn't bring myself to delete that photo. It wasn't about holding on to hope, it was about holding on to a good memory, a testament that joy existed, even it was fleeting, so there it stayed, greeting me every time I unlocked my phone, a permanent fixture, a silent echo of a happier time. I'd look at it, a pang of sadness, sure, but also a warmth. A reminder of Emily the way she truly was, until, that is, the photograph started to change. It began subtly, insidiously. A few months after the breakup, I was idly scrolling through my photo and just passing time. My thumb paused on this specific photo. Emily was still laughing, her head still thrown back, but her eyes, they looked a little off, a fraction too wide, not joyful, but almost startled, like the laughter was forced, a grimace masquerading as happiness. I squinted, tilted the phone. Must be the phone's screen glare, I muttered to myself, dismissing the flicker of unease. A week later, the unease had grown into something more tangible. I picked up my phone, and there she was. Her smile was definitely wrong. It looked stretched, unnatural, almost painful. The lines around her eyes were too deep, like permanent worry. And her hand, which had been gracefully holding a champagne flute in the original, was now slightly blurred, as if she was in the act of pulling it away from me, desperate to escape my grasp. I knew, with a creeping dread, that digital photos don't just change themselves, they are static, pixel-perfect replicas. But this wasn't static, this was altering. I even ran the photo through an old recovery program, checking the original file metadata, hoping for corruption. Nothing. But the photo was indeed changing. My heart hammered in my chest. Every time I unlocked my phone, every glance at the screen was an exercise in terror. Each day, Emily's face was more distorted, more terrified. Her skin became paler, losing its healthy glow. The light in her eyes extinguished, leaving them hollowed out, dark like empty sockets. Her beautiful, joyous smile was gone entirely, replaced by a thin, straight line that spoke volumes of pure, quiet dread. This wasn't just a glitch. This was an active, malevolent force, and then came the worst of it. Last night, I picked up my phone, the screen a sickly glow in the dark room. Emily was there, a silent, screaming horror, and her hand, the one that had been blurred, then absent, it was now completely missing, replaced by a gaping black hole where her wrist should have been, a void that seemed to suck the light out of the room. I understood then. The photograph wasn't a static image of the past. It was a window, and something was actively, retroactively destroying that very moment, erasing Emily piece by painful piece from the inside out. I threw my phone across the room, the sound of it hitting the wall echoing in the silence. This was insane. I was insane, but I had to know. I had to find the proof. I raced to the attic, scrambling through dusty boxes, searching for my old digital camera, the clunky Canon I used on that wedding day, the one with the original memory card. I found it, blowing off years of dust. My hands shook as I pulled the tiny SD card and inserted it into my ancient laptop. I opened the file. There it was, the original, perfect. Emily, radiant, laughing, her hand holding the glass, her eyes sparkling with genuine joy. I zoomed in, every pixel, every detail, untouched, unblemished. I let out a shaky breath, a wave of cold relief washing over me. It was just my phone. A display glitch, a dying screen, my mind playing tricks. I was fine. Emily was fine. The memory was safe. But as I sat there, my relief curdled into ice-cold dread. I heard a faint, almost imperceptible click from the camera, still plugged into the laptop, a sound that shouldn't have been. I looked back at the screen. The image file was still open, and as I watched, my blood turning to ice. Emily's beautiful, laughing face on the screen slowly fuzzed out. The eyes widened, the smile stretched, pulling her features into that familiar, agonizing mask of terror. The color drained away, leaving her skin white and waxen. My breath hitched in my throat. I realized the perfect image on the memory card was only perfect because it hadn't been downloaded yet. It was the last anchor of that happy moment. And now, the parasite, whatever it was, had found its way in. I watched in absolute cold panic as Emily's image on my laptop screen morphed into the silent, screaming horror I'd seen on my phone, and then I saw it, just behind her shoulder, peering out from the deep shadow cast by the lake house. A tall, dark, pixelated figure. It wasn't a person, it was a void, a distortion, like a shadow made of broken code, a tear in reality. It hadn't been a glitch or a bad memory. That figure was a time parasite, using the photograph as a vector to erase Emily from that moment, and maybe from my entire timeline. As I stared, paralyzed, the figure began to reach out of the screen, its form solidifying, its fingers long and black, extending from the digital realm into my physical world. I scrambled to pull the memory card out of the computer, but it was too late. The parasite's grip was on the image, and now it was on me. The last thing I saw before I finally had the presence of mind to smash the monitor with my fist was the chilling, undeniable truth. The parasite hadn't just erased Emily's hand. It was reaching for my picture next, and I seemed to be already gone. I have never believed in ghosts, but I've always believed in data, real data. I was staying in the abandoned St. Michael's Monastery, a crumbling ruin rumored to be haunted by the Shadow Monk, a figure that allegedly only appears during the prayer. The fee for 3 nights was insane, and I planned to collect my money and prove the whole thing was nonsense. I set up my infrared cameras, EMF readers, and motion sensors. The first 24 hours were silent, nothing, just dust, wind, and the sound of my own footsteps. I started to get bored. I was sitting in the chapel reviewing footage when my eyes started to get heavy. I hadn't slept well the night before. I yawned, then I blinked. Just a normal blink, a fraction of a second of darkness, but in that fraction of a second, I saw something. A massive black shape in the corner of the chapel, much too tall for a man. It was vague, indistinct, like a smudge of charcoal on the edge of my vision. I shot my eyes open. Nothing, just the empty, dusty chapel. I dismissed it completely, the brain throwing up an image just before sleep, but the experience rattled me. I decided to test it. I stared at the corner, focusing hard. I blinked slowly, Flash. There it was again, taller this time, a silhouette with unnaturally long limbs like a shadow stretched too thin. I opened my eyes. Gone. I spent the next hour intentionally blinking, experimenting with speed. Every time my eyelids shut, the entity was there. It was terrifying, yet frustratingly ephemeral. It wasn't visible to my cameras, it was temporary. Not even the infrared could detect it. It was a ghost that only existed in the gap between my conscious vision. I realized the only way to stay safe was not to blink. And the only way to do that was to stay awake. Simple. I brought it in every light source I had: floodlights, lanterns, my headlamp. I drank 3 liters of coffee. I taped my eyes open briefly, but the pain made me snap them shut. I started pacing, slapping my cheeks, anything to fight the crushing weight of exhaustion. As the hours dragged on, the entity started getting closer in the blinks. At hour 30, it was standing at the edge of the altar. At hour 40, it was halfway down the aisle. Its presence was so heavy and overwhelming that my heart would skip a beat every time I blinked. I started seeing visuals now, the first signs of severe sleep deprivation. My vision was blurry, and the shadows of the room started to writhe. At hour 60, I was a complete wreck. My internal monologue was shouting at me to sleep. Every fiber of my body was screaming for darkness. I was paranoid, shivering, and the monastery felt like a building and more like a monstrous coffin. I knew I was hallucinating. I thought I saw the floorboards breathing, and the crosses on the wall seemed to be weeping black tears. I couldn't trust anything I saw with my eyes open, but the entity in the blinks, that was always sharp. It was the most distinct, terrifying thing I could see. At hour 70, I blinked, and it was right in front of me. Its shadowy face filling the brief darkness, its long fingers reaching out. I screamed, stumbling backward, tearing off my headlamp. I collapsed against the wall, dry heaving. I realized the horrifying paradox of the situation. The shadow monk was advancing, but I was the one moving. I was forcing myself to stay awake, and the faster my mind broke, the closer the entity seemed to get. In my delirium, a new, chilling thought penetrated the chaos. What if the entity wasn't moving when I blinked? What if the blink wasn't a trigger, but a filter? What if the shadow monk was always there, right in front of me, but my conscious, rested mind was physically unable to process its impossible reality? The blink, the micro moment of complete sensory darkness, wasn't when it moved. It was the moment my exhausted, shattered brain finally registered the full, tangible presence of the monster that always was right there. I had to see it. I forced my eyes wide open, pushing back against the pain and exhaustion. The air in front of me felt thick, buzzing with cold energy. I stared, willing my mind to break the filter, and then I couldn't hold it anymore. My eyes burned, tearing up. I blinked one last, inevitable time. The entity wasn't closer, it was touching me. The shadow was all around me, massive, cold, suffocating. I opened my eyes again, ready to scream, ready to see it vanish, but the world stayed dark. I didn't hear a sound, I didn't feel pain, just a smooth, absolute, eternal darkness. The entity's touch hadn't killed me, it had just done one thing. It had blinded me. Now I was permanently in the dark, and because I was permanently in the dark, the horrifying entity was permanently visible. I was finally forced to see the shadow monk, which I never believed in, and it was the last thing I would ever see. Trapped in the lightless cell of my own mind, I didn't need to blink anymore. The terror was constant.